Hey everybody, Felix Stoppelbaker here. I just wanted to run a quick thought by you guys. Let's just say you got into Bitcoin within the past 12 months and you were able to time the bottom absolutely perfectly. You bought a Bitcoin for, let's just say, with fees and premiums and all that fun stuff, fiat to crypto conversions. You paid $3,500 on the way up of the bottom for a Bitcoin. If this is going to be showing you just the crazy value proposition that one Bitcoin could potentially have. So if you bought one Bitcoin, let's say at $3,500, and we end up going into a hyperinflation situation where the banks are printing unlimited money in order to try to keep the economy moving, and they are constantly lowering interest rates, we're going to see prices explode to Weimar Republic levels. We're going to see prices explode to Zimbabwe levels. I mean, this is going to be hyperinflation like no one's ever seen. And so if we take that into account, and that there is game theory in the Bitcoin protocol to account for this, to where you will never be able to buy the amount of Bitcoin available, even how little it is, the price will always exceed your amount of fiat. And that's called the nonce. It's a little tiny mechanism that's super important within the Bitcoin protocol. You can go do some research on that. It's pretty interesting. But basically, if there's one whole Bitcoin, all the money in the world theoretically would only be able to buy, a certain level up to the point where you would run out of money before you actually own the full Bitcoin. But what we have to look at is all that money coming from hyperinflation and economies crashing all over the world, piling into Bitcoin, could cause a Bitcoin to skyrocket in price up to something like $100,000. And let's say you had two Bitcoins and you were living off one for 10 years, and in 10 years a whole Bitcoin was worth $1 million. It's still a Bitcoin that you paid $3,500 for, but now is worth $1 million. So now you have $1 million, you have 996,500 basically of profit. So going back to what happens during that same period of hyperinflation is all of the prices go up for everything. Well, then you have to have a asset repricing, and you have to have basically a debt jubilee where all the debt is wiped out. Prices will be repriced in Bitcoin, so things will be extremely cheap, where if you have a house today, the same price that you bought the Bitcoin for $3,500, if you have a $100,000 house at that price, when Bitcoin is $1 million, that house may be only $2,500 or $5,000. So at those kind of prices, you can start to see that with $1 million, you could buy maybe a whole city worth of homes and rent them out. And you could be the next Grant Cardone or the next Carlos Slim. And I don't mean to interchange those type of people. Those are two vastly different people. But that level of wealth is something that you could attain just off of one Bitcoin if these types of things were to play out, which look like they're more and more likely. And you could start to see that one Bitcoin, you could diversify basically with $3,500 at the bottom, and you could buy a whole city and then you could probably buy, you know, several farms, and you could essentially run your own town, be your own government, and all that fun stuff, which would be crazy. But that's all just owning one Bitcoin. Well, these are just some random thoughts I'm having. I just think that that's really interesting, and people not taking a look at Bitcoin will be super caught off guard, especially the people, you know, selling it, who have been selling at these prices. I mean, I'd be holding it, doing all that kind of stuff. But, all right, Staffelbigger out.